Good evening. Do you know that American music has been shaped by the Moravian people? Tonight we'll discuss who the Moravians are, what instruments they brought to America, and how they've shaped American music and American culture. The Moravians are a group of people who originated in Bohemia and Moravia, who were led by John Huss, and he was one of the leaders of the Czech Reformation movement. In America, the Moravians weaved a rich musical and educational legacy that is little known by most Americans. They were highly musical. They migrated to America in order to witness to the Native Americans back in the 1720s to 1730s. They put into practice the belief of a renowned Moravian educator whose name was John Amos Comenius. And Jules Smith, in academic and music curricula in the 19th century American women's education, is quoted John Amos Comenius as saying that men, like women, were endowed with equal sharpness of mind and capacity for knowledge, hence they deserved an equivalent education. They firmly believed in educational benefits for men, women, and children, which was rare for that day. They also started the first boarding school for women in this country in 1842, which incorporated strong musical training. They started the first collegium musicum as well, and basically the music collegium is actually a society for artists in order to keep their art and craft going. They established this in 1744. This later became known as the Philharmonic Society. The Moravians used both old and new instruments and brought them with them to this country, the gamba being one of them. The trombone was also introduced to America by the Moravians, and the Moravians used trombones in something they called choirs, or in groups. The first mention of a keyboard was also used by Moravians in a school in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Other instrumental firsts include the first violin made in America by a Moravian named John Antes, and the first organs that were actually used in this country were made by Moravians. And the best known organ maker of the time was David Tannenberg, and people solicit him frequently. He was a very prolific organ builder. Because of the high musical training of the Moravians, their music is more complex than other American music being composed during the same time. Remember that at this time America was considered a frontier, and most of the music being established during this time was frontier music. It did not have a classical base. The Moravians were directly influenced by the pre-classical movement, were highly musical people, and they were also influenced during that time by the Mannheim, the Vienna, and the Dresden music schools, and that's just to name a few of them that were available in Europe at the time. Another reason for their complexity and musical prowess is their desire to catalog and train future generations. They created a foundation that's still in existence, and it is run by the Moravian Church. They created this foundation for Moravian compositions as well as those of other composers. We quote this from David McCorkle from the Moravian Contribution to American Music from Notes, second series. The foundation holds over 6,000 manuscripts, including copies of nearly 100 large choral works, oratorios, and cantatas by European masters. Not all are sacred. Approximately 1,000 are secular works from European and American composers. Some of the first formal works composed in America were by Moravian composers and included the first sacred composition by Moravian composer Jeremiah Zdrenka. The earliest examples of chamber music include 6 quintets composed by Johann Friedrich Peter in 1789, and the first string trios composed by a native-born American were composed by John Antes, the same person who actually built the first violin here in America while he was in Egypt. So he actually was the first native-born American to compose string trios. He, however, was in Egypt at the time. Another very important first for America is the American Guild of Organists, which was started by another Moravian, Dr. Fred Voll. The Moravians used hymns in church and everyday life. Hymns were based on the same music that Bach used for his chorales. During this time, the hymn book was second only to the Bible, and music was used to evangelize, to educate men, women, and children, and hymns were used in devotionals and in the workplace. The hymn was used in every facet of Moravian life. Music was extremely important to them. We quoted this from Joan Faulkner from the Second Berlin Song School in America. Music and music education were diligently preserved. Musical culture wasn't left to the individual, but they developed it on a community scale. This is probably the reason why Moravian music grew on a scale at a higher level than other music that was going on in the American frontier. More can be quoted from the Music in Wachovia, from the William and Mary Quarterly, saying the fact that many travelers gave special attention to the musical activities of the Moravians is an indication that it was something out of the ordinary, something the traveler did not expect to find in the frontier region where this German group had settled. Because of this difference, the Moravian Church Foundation is still in existence and continues to add to its musical collection. What we've learned today is that the Moravians came to this country to basically proselytize, but what they brought with them enriched our culture greatly. They brought musical instruments, their own compositions, and they continue to grow and add them to their collection. That is 6,000 strong. The Moravian Church holds the foundation, and because of this, we have some copies of music that are only extant in this country, which includes one set of series of music that was composed by J.C.E. Bach, which is the Bookbark Bach. And it's the only known copies in existence, and how they made it to this country we don't know, but the Moravians brought it, and they have it housed at the Moravian Church. All of these things lead us to the one conclusion, that the Moravians held a high standard of music and continued a high standard of music, which has influenced American music today. Thank you.